Hi everyone, my name is Aryadana, but you can call me Dana. If I ask you to build the most complex database system in the world, you might guess banking or maybe a flight booking engine. I would argue that the title belongs to the Policy Administration System or PAS. This is the beating heart of the insurance industry. It isn't just a place to store data, it is a massive legal state machine that has to manage financial liability for 30 or 40 years. Today we are going to do an architectural deep dive. We'll look at why the system is so hard to build, the big three market leaders you need to know, and how we are finally moving this monolith into the cloud. So, why it is so hard? The biggest mistake developers make is treating PaaS like an e-commerce app. If you look at the left side of the screen, e-commerce is linear. You add an item to a cart, you pay, you ship it. The transaction is done in 3 days. The state is static. Now look at the right side. Insurance is circular. When you sell a policy, you aren't finishing a transaction. You are starting a relationship that lasts decades. Over those 30 years, that policy will change. The customer will get married, that's an endorsement. They will miss payment, that's a lapse. They pay and they will pay us back. That's a reinstatement. The system has to track every single one of these state changes without losing history. If a customer calls today asking about coverage from 5 years ago, the system has to time travel back to that exact date. That is why we say PAS is not a database, it is a state machine. If you are buying a PAS today rather than building one, you are likely looking at one of the three giants. First, the 800-pound gorilla Guidewire. They are the market leader. Their core is built on Java, specifically a derivative called Gosu. Historically, they were an on-premise monolith, but they are aggressively moving to AWS with Guidewire Cloud, breaking their app into microservices. Second, the challenger Duck Creek. If you are a Microsoft shop, it's your choice. They are built on .NET and run natively on Azure. They focus heavily on low-code configuration, allowing business users to tweak rules without calling IT. And finally, the legacy giant DXC, formerly CSC. You will find them running the oldest, biggest insurance companies. Their core engines, like Reptile or Policy, are often written in COBOL or C++. They are incredibly hard to customize, but they are bulletproof. They handle millions of transactions without blinking. Now, if you don't buy one of the big three, you are building it yourself. And here we see the most dramatic spectrum in the entire industry. On the left, we have the legacy monolith. If you walk into a basement of a 100-year old insurer, you will likely find this, an IBM mainframe running COBOL. It talks to the world via batch files and IBM MQ. Is it old? Yes. Is it ugly? Maybe. But it's rock solid. It processes millions of renewals while we sleep. On the right, we have the headless PAS. This is what the Insurtech startups are building. There is no UI. It is API first. It runs on Kubernetes. It uses polyglot persistence, PostgreSQL for the strict ledger, and MongoDB for the flexible documents. It is fast and infinitely scalable, but please be warned, the distributed complexity is very hard to manage. PAS is not one single application. It is really five distinct engines working in concert. First, the product builder. This is the DNA. This is where the actors define the rules. For example, product X is only for people under 60. Second, new businesses and underwriting. This is the gatekeeper. It takes the customer's data, runs it against the product rules, and decides, do we accept this risk? Third, policy servicing. This is the workhorse. It manages the policy for the next 30 years, handling address changes, manages updates, and reinstatements. Fourth, billing. The cashier. It knows exactly when to charge the credit card and what to do if the payment bounces. And finally, claims. This is the moment of truth where we actually pay out the promise we made. Now let's look at the data model. This is where most developers get a headache. On the left, we have the CRM, systems like Salesforce. The data structure here is flat. You have a contact, the person, and you have an opportunity to potential deal. It's a simple parent-child relationship. You can query this with a basic SQL join. But on the right, look at the PAS. The data structure is a deep hierarchy. We call this the policy tree. It starts with the policy, the legal contract. Underneath you have risks, the things we are covering, like a specific car or a person's life. Under that list, you have coverages, collision, liability, theft, and under that you have components, the specific deductibles, limits, and premiums for that coverage. So why does this matter to an architect? Because you cannot flatten this easily. If you try to load a policy into memory, you aren't just reading one row, you are doing a recursive fetch of a massive tree structure. This is why reporting on insurance data is notoriously difficult. Finally, let's look at the life cycle. A policy isn't static, it travels through time. It starts at new business, where we bind the code. Then it enters the endorsement phase. This is where the customer gets married or buys a new car. The system must calculate the price difference pro rata for the remaining days of the year. Then the renewal. Every year the system wakes up, recalculates the risk, and sends a new bill. And finally, lapse or claim, where the contract ends. And what is the architect's challenge? Is to ensure that an endorsement done today doesn't break the renewal calculation happening tomorrow. To wrap up, I want to share the three places where this architecture typically breaks. First, the batch versus real-time conflict. Modern mobile apps expect instant results, but many PAS engines still run on a nightly batch cycle. If a user pays a bill at 12 p.m., but the system doesn't process it until 4 a.m., you have a data sync problem that can cause customer support nightmares. Second, orphan data. Marketing generates thousands of codes in the CRM, but only 1% of them actually buy. If you push every single code into PAS, you will choke the system with junk data. You must design a filter to only sync the bound policies. And third, the referral black hole. When a risk is complex, the automated engine stops and asks for a human underwriter. It will break the API flow. You cannot keep the connection open for 3 days while a human reads a medical report. You need to build a synchronous status callbacks to handle this. So that is the policy administration system. We started by looking at the technology from the legacy mainframes of the 80s to the cloud-native microservices of today. We unpacked 5 pillars of functionality from product building to claims. And finally, we look at the architectural traps, the batch cycles, and the referral black holes that can ruin your day. If you are an engineer entering the insurance space, remember this. Don't just build a database, respect the state machine, because at the end of the day, the system isn't just storing rows of data, it is keeping the financial promises we make to people for the next 30 years. I'm Dana, and thank you very much for watching.